Hey there, Twisters. So for this video, I'm going to share my favorite jersey for every NHL team in the Adidas era. So from the 2017-18 season through 2023-24, because of course Fanatics is taking over as the jersey provider next season. So anyway, let me know some of your favorite jerseys from the Adidas era in the comments down below, and maybe we'll be reacting to the new jerseys that Fanatics puts out. Maybe that'll be over the summer. So anyway, stay tuned for more jersey content like that. So let's get started. We'll go in alphabetical order. Anaheim Ducks, I selected their 30th anniversary jersey. It's just amazing seeing the Ducks back in that eggplant and jade, even though they used kind of a variation of the shoulder logo from back in that era on the chest there. That's about it. I also like the reverse retro 2.0. Even the Mighty Ducks logo in the orange, black, and gold color scheme is pretty good to me, but seeing this throwback for the first time in quite some time on the ice or something related to that is fantastic. Now we get to the inactive Arizona Coyotes, and I've chosen the reverse retro 2.0 jersey. I just really like the coloring on this. I think that it looks more unified than what we saw with reverse retro 1.0. I did like that they brought back the Kachina in both black and also in white, but this one to me I think really does speak the most to that sort of Arizona desert motif. For the Boston Bruins, they had several really good designs in the Adidas era. Even their 2023 Winter Classic, what they did in this past season with the 100th anniversary for both home away games in addition to the alternate. But my favorite from them has been this 2019 Winter Classic. I love the felt B. I used to have this one. The striping on the arms, I know it's kind of bumblebee design, but it just fills out the space really nicely. I also really like the Winter Classic patch on the shoulder and how the Bruins had in their collar the shamrock with all the years that they had won the Stanley Cup. Buffalo Sabres, they had several great designs as well. Reissuing the goat head was fantastic, and I'm a huge fan of the current away and home jerseys for them. But my favorite from them maybe would be the 2018 Winter Classic. I love the updated logo on the front with the NY there at the bottom. I love the Charging Buffalo or Charging Bison on the shoulder with, I think does it say Sabres or Buffalo there? Well, either way, I like that quite a bit. And just the classic coloring. At the time, they were wearing the sort of navy and gold and a little bit of gray also in their uniforms, but seeing this back on the ice was fantastic. For the Carolina Hurricanes, it's the Whalers jerseys. Those are just all-time classics. But if we talk just about the Carolina Hurricanes as a team name and mascot, I'd say probably the 25th anniversary jersey. We saw that last season. I like the shoulders quite a bit. Really like the typeface on this, especially on the back with the name and numbers there. And the overall color play is interesting. The bottom of the jersey with the storm flags. For the Columbus Blue Jackets, it's the Cannon jersey. I know that this was also used in the Reebok era, but the translation from that to Adidas was great. I really like, of course, the off-white there. The Cannon logo itself is wonderful, and with that felt texture. And even the typeface on the back looks very unique, and I think that the overall balance in this jersey is terrific. Now, in my opinion, the Calgary Flames might have had the best lineup of jerseys in the NHL during the Adidas era, and really I think the crown jewel of this is them bringing back the classic red and yellow jerseys, especially at home. The away ones look wonderful as well, but this to me, it's just assertive, it's bold, it's what a hockey jersey for the most part should look like. The C looks great in white, even though it also looked really good in black. And it's not trying to do too much. Really, for me, this is my favorite home jersey in the NHL most likely. For the Blackhawks, I could have chosen either the home or the away jersey. I liked how the Hawks actually updated the collar from the first couple of years in the Adidas era, but in terms of like newer designs or less familiar designs, I chose reverse retro 1.0. They didn't have too many jerseys to choose from here, but again, this one is fairly balanced. I like the banding on the arms, the little red outlining the numbers, I think is a great decision. The shoulder yoke, it's cool to see the Blackhawks wearing something like that as well. The Colorado Avalanche had several great designs also in the Adidas era. We could talk about the reverse retro 1, which was the Nordiques throwback, or reverse retro 2. I thought that one was fairly underrated, but I chose the home jersey. I think that the updates that they made, especially from the previous era in Reebok, just about everything I can't complain with. I know some people don't like the blue pants or blue helmets, but aside from that, when we're looking just at the jersey itself, I like the typeface and the outlining to the numbers there. I like the C on the shoulders. I know some people would rather have the Yeti foot. I'd be fine with that as well. And yeah, I just think that that sort of updated shade of blue is better for this team. It's one of my favorites that we see today. For the Dallas Stars, I did choose the blackout jersey. I know it's fairly polarizing, but remember, these are just my opinions. So I love the numbers here. The detailing in that is terrific. The collar design is really interesting as well, especially with the come and take it there in the interior of the collar. And yeah, I mean, the neon green here, it's used, I think, just enough. The Reverse Retro 2.0, which was a throwback to what they sort of wore when they first moved over to Dallas, I thought that was excellent as well, so that could also be a good top pick. For the Detroit Red Wings, they didn't have very many jerseys. I would just probably choose the away jersey because I think that that's one of the better ones that we see in the NHL, and it's quite iconic to us. But in terms of the newer designs, we only had Reverse Retro 1.0 and 2.0, and actually, I think 2.0 is a little bit underappreciated. I know it's kind of crazy, but it's quite a throwback. Detroit hasn't done that with this version of their franchise just yet. And yes, this is a departure from the winged wheel, but overall, I don't mind it all that much, even though I'm not clamoring for it to come back in the Fanatics era. For the Edmonton Oilers, I thought they did a great job with Reverse Retro 1 and 2.0, but my favorite thing that they did in their era, and also the Heritage Classic unis were great, but the classic white, royal blue and orange look for the Oilers, I think it ages really well. I like the striping on it, the color play, there's enough contrast, the circular symmetrical logo. I can't really complain. The shoulder yoke works well for this one. The numbers, I like how there's that little bit of a gap between the royal and the orange there. It's just one of my all-time favorite jerseys, as simple as it is. The Florida Panthers only had 4 jerseys in the Adidas era. They had the red home, the white away, both of which I do like quite a bit. But when we look at newer designs, we had the Reverse Retro jerseys. Now, I wanted to choose the 2.0. I love how just wild the Panthers were in choosing this, but there are a couple of gripes that I have with this jersey, specifically the collar color and also the way that the numbers are colored as well. Whereas I think with the 1.0, this to me is fairly flawless. I think that this could be a regular on the ice for the Panthers, and it does translate pretty well into the team's current color scheme. Now we get to the LA Kings, and they had lots of different jerseys in the Adidas era, and I was a fan of a few of them, especially the white alternate jersey with the sort of puffy chevron logo and the silver sort of fleck texture. You also had Reverse Retro 2, which I thought might have been the best that we saw in that class, or at least top 5. But at the end of the day, when the LA Kings are wearing purple, I just can't, deny that. Even though I don't think this is a perfect jersey, I think that purple and gold is just a classic color scheme that needs to be a regular in the NHL. I like the collar, they did just right with those. The numbers look wonderful as well. Our next team is the Minnesota Wild, and I loved how they went back to the forest green for their home games. I thought that the off-white numbers were an excellent addition there, and so I wanted to put that at number 1, not to mention those M logos on the shoulders. But I'm a huge fan of the 2 Reverse Retro jerseys as well, especially the 1.0 in white. I just like the balance of this a little more. I like the way that they did the shoulders and the collar more than with the 2.0. The 2.0 did become an alternate jersey for them, and I really like the captain's letter on that, an alternate letter with the state of Minnesota. But in my sort of bias here, I did end up collecting the 1.0. It's one of my favorite jerseys that I've owned, and even though the 2.0 would probably be on that list as well, the 1.0, there's really nothing wrong with it in my opinion. I know that some people call it the Subway jersey. Now we get to the Montreal Canadiens, and just like the Panthers, the only jerseys they had were the Reverse Retros in addition to the home and away. I'm a huge fan of seeing the Canadiens in basically their usual uniforms, but recolored in blue as the base here. So I thought they pulled it off flawlessly for their first go around with this. They also had the powder blue for the Reverse Retro 2.0, but this one, I think it's the Canadiens colors, and it's just executed as we would expect it. For the New Jersey Devils, now I was critical of their home and away jerseys for Adidas. However, the ones that they had after that were excellent. You had, of course, the Reverse Retro 1 in green. I thought about choosing that. The Reverse Retro 2, which was a throwback to the Kansas City Scouts and Colorado Rockies before they moved over to New Jersey. That one to me was something else. I never would have expected the Devils to do that. But I chose the Stadium Series because this is what people were asking for all along, or at least it's a close version of it. I know a lot of people want to see basically a black jersey with red accents, but this, I thought they did an excellent job on it. The logo looks terrific without the circle. I wouldn't even mind them actually switching to that, and I wouldn't complain if the Devils found a way to bring this back. Now we go to the Nashville Predators. They had a couple different designs, like Reverse Retro. They had the Winter Classic from 2019. They had the Stadium Series from 22, but my favorite jersey they had in the Adidas era is the Reverse Retro 1.0. The treatment of the logo, the silver really shines well. I love the numbers, the typeface of this. I also really like how this jersey has the silver. I think that breaks up the yellow quite well, or the Predators gold. Plus it had like a stretchy sort of texture to it. So I thought that this was one of the most underrated jerseys that we saw in the Adidas era. Now for the Islanders, I wasn't a big fan of their jerseys apart from their home and away. I'm glad that they've gone back to royal blue, and I like the design that they currently have right now. The Reverse Retro 1.0 in navy I thought was fine, even though it wasn't the most creative design out there, but I wasn't actually a fan of them bringing back the Fisherman the way that they did, sort of recoloring the logo, omitting teal from the color scheme. I thought that jersey just had some of that character sucked away from what they had in the 1990s, and I kind of understand why, but it turned out just a little bit too bland in my opinion. Whereas the home jersey, I think there really isn't anything I would do to change things up. Maybe put a couple of logos on the shoulder, and that's just about it. For the Rangers, I've chosen Reverse Retro 2.0. I really liked how they added some red at the sleeve base. I thought that was needed to kind of balance things out versus the 1.0. I think the color scheme works quite well here with the royal blue versus the navy blue from the previous one. You still have those shoulder logos from the original Statue of Liberty jersey as well. I'm really hoping that we can see this in white at some point. Also want to shout out that the Rangers Stadium Series jersey might have been my favorite from the crop that we saw this year. It's one of my favorite Stadium Series jerseys that we've seen. Really, I'd say it's kind of a toss-up between that and this jersey, but how could I deny Lady Liberty? So next team, and that is the Ottawa Senators. Now, I wasn't a fan of either of their Reverse Retro jerseys. They also had the kind of like 100th year anniversary red jersey with the silver O, but I think the Sens were smart changing up their jerseys, going back to sort of their original look from the 1990s in the black and red. Honestly, the logo doesn't do a whole lot for me, but I think that it looks more like a classic hockey jersey. I didn't really like the design of the ones that they were wearing going into the 2020s. So this one, to me, there isn't all that much that I have issue with, and I really like the numbers on this with the red outlining. For the Philadelphia Flyers, I chose the Reverse Retro 1.0. My big gripe with it, I will say, is the bottom of the sleeves being white. I just think that looks kind of weird, kind of like the Golden Seals wearing white skates back in the day. But that aside, I think the rest of the jersey looks great. I like the black shoulder yoke, and I'd like to see the Flyers kind of reissue this or sort of tweak the design in future seasons. Also, the 2019 Stadium Series jersey may be a little underrated, especially since it kind of paired well with the next team that we'll talk about, the Pittsburgh Penguins. They had some fun jerseys that they brought back, and they had one in particular that they had kind of tweaked for Reverse Retro 2.0, and that for me was the Robo Penguin. Seeing that back on a jersey for the first time in, God, what, 20 something years, or just about. Really, to me, this one is well balanced. It's got a great color scheme, and even though the Penguins home jersey is probably my favorite in the Adidas era, this would probably be number 2. I also did like what they wore for the Winter Classic in 2023 and the Stadium Series in 2019 when they went black and gold with no white at all. Now with the Seattle Kraken, they only had 4 jerseys. They had their home, their away, their Reverse Retro 2.0. A lot of our Twisters were big fans of that one, and they also had the Winter Classic, and I chose the Winter Classic. I'm a sucker for throwbacks, and I really liked how they sort of unified the Seattle Kraken with the Seattle Metropolitans. I liked how they used the actual Kraken S, or at least that shape, versus what the Metropolitans had. I think the striping with this is really fun, the color play overall, and using some of that off-white, you know I'm a sucker for that. So this would be almost tied with the home and the away jerseys. I thought they did a good job with them. My San Jose Sharks are next here, and I chose the Cali Fin alternate, and I hope that we find a way to see this jersey on the ice a lot more in the future. This might be my favorite black Sharks jersey of all time. They've had, I think, 4 designs overall, but really here, seeing that shark fin logo recolored and put on the front for the first time, it's really neat because a lot of us had seen concepts of that in previous seasons. Now this one has the Northern California shoulder patch that we saw from the Stadium Series in 2015. It's been recolored, and it also has the Mexican-inspired striping that you see below the typical sleeve bands, and I thought that that was an excellent addition as well. Then we go to the Blues, and I am a huge fan of their alternate jersey, throwing back to the 1960s, the late 60s when they came into the league, that lighter blue that they wore for the 2017 Winter Classic, although that had the sweater collar and this one doesn't. So kind of for that reason, I've chosen their heritage uniform or vintage uniform from the 1990s. Now, I actually wasn't a fan of that back in that era, but somehow that translated so well in the Adidas era. The coloring's really fun, of course, as a nod to the city diversity of St. Louis's flag. Also, the trumpet logos on the shoulders, I think those are some of the best shoulder logos that we've ever seen. Let's go to the Tampa Bay Lightning next, and I thought about the Stadium Series from 2022, which had the Bolts wordmark and stylized, and that one to me was so much better than what they had in the Reebok era with those two designs previously. But I did end up choosing the Reverse Retro 2.0. Some people might say the 1.0. It's such a wild design. I love the bolts of lightning on the arms, and I think that the recoloring on the shoulders actually worked out pretty well. I love how they kept the typeface too. It's one of the most wild ones that we've seen in the NHL's history. It's a crazy jersey, and it's cool to see Tampa do that considering how kind of bland the home and away jerseys were. The Toronto Maple Leafs are a tough call here because I really liked the 2018 Stadium Series jersey, all white with the white logo. I thought that that was pulled off much better than I anticipated. And also the home and away jerseys, I've always been a fan of those. You have the Reverse Retro 2.0, which was that felt logo with the old school shoulder yoke. That might be my favorite design, and I'm always a fan of seeing the Maple Leafs in some sort of St. Pat's jerseys, excuse me. But just for the first time ever, we got to see the Toronto Arenas jerseys, in our lifetime at least, on the ice, and so that's why I've chosen them here. You got the old school striping on the arms. I know it's kind of a weird looking logo, but again, I don't know if we'll ever get a chance to see this again. This reminds me of how the NHL started out back in 1917-18, so I gotta put it on here. Let's go to the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, when they first unveiled the mascot and the uniforms, I was like, what the heck are these? These don't look like hockey jerseys. They look like they're part of a motocross team or something like that. But once I saw the Knights a few times on the ice, I became a huge fan of these jerseys. The team itself, well, as a Sharks fan, you guys know, but the gold detail in this is amazing, and it was so influential in other jersey designs like the LA Kings alternate. The detailing in the logo looks incredible too. You don't really see it too much in photos, but there really is detailing in the black part of the logo. I like this so much more in gray than the current gold home jersey that they currently have, but they did keep this around as an alternate, and I would like to see this permanently in their arsenal of jerseys. We have two more teams left. So Winnipeg Jets, they had several great jerseys in the Adidas era, home, away. You had the Aviator Blue alternate from this past season, and also the script jersey that we saw a few years ago. You had the Reverse Retro 1.0, which I thought was underappreciated. The 2.0 in white with the logo from the 1990s, I thought was a great throwback as well. My favorite though has to be this one from, I think it was used in 2018. It's a throwback to the original Winnipeg Jets of the 1970s, and the detailing on this with the chain stitch logo, I know it's done differently than the Blackhawks. The overall design, kind of like the Edmonton Oilers one that I talked about earlier, right? The shoulder yoke, 3 stripes on the sleeves, 3 stripes on the waist. I just think that that's pulled off flawlessly here. The numbers look terrific as well. And lastly, we have the Washington Capitals. Both reverse retro jerseys have to be at the very top here. I do have the 1.0 behind me. Thank you, CJ and Dan. And seeing that in red, white, and navy was just, I did not know that I would fall in love with that jersey as much as I did. But then they came out with the 2.0 with that bronze fleck texture. Unbeatable, especially seeing that in the logo with the black base. I thought that the overall color scheme worked quite well here. The shoulder logos with the Capitol building, that looks terrific as well. I wouldn't mind seeing that back on the front of the jersey. The numbers, interesting typeface, sure, but something that is pretty unique, especially compared to what we see with the current Capitals jerseys for home and away. Anyway, that's my favorite jersey for every NHL team in the Adidas era. What are some of yours? Let me know in the comments down below, and follow me on social media. We upload all our videos to Rumble, in case you didn't know, in addition to posting content on both X and also on Instagram. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. I'm Nick, and I'll catch you Twisters for another one real soon. Ciao.